Welcome to the Division of Clinical and Translational Research Orientation videos. My name is Dr. Bishoy Goubran. I'm a research fellow, and this is part of the curriculum arranged by Dr. Sanchez-Gonzalez, the director. Today's topic is going to be specific aims. Specific aims is a very important part of any research proposal you will do. And it's actually the most vital part of any NIH grant application you will write. It has to be written in a specific format. It's about a page to a page and a half where you summarize your research proposal. In it you state, what is your research topic, why is it important and relevant, and how are you going to do it? So in the next few slides, we will learn how to write it in the correct format and satisfy all the components needed. First paragraph. First paragraph should be an introductory paragraph. In this paragraph, your goal should be to introduce your research subject to the reviewers and quickly capture their attention. That's why you started with an opening sentence that should be an attention getter. In research terminology, we often call it the hook. You're trying to hook the reader into your research proposal. In this sentence, you briefly describe what your proposal will be about. Ideally, it should convey a sense of importance or urgency to your research. Explain quickly what your research topic is and why it is critical that you conduct this research, saving lives, preventing cancer, etc. Then you arrive at the important knowns. You state what is currently known in the field. And this part should not be very long, 3 to 5 sentences, where you ground the reader in the subject of your research. You go to PubMed or other research websites and do a literature review, and then arrive at what is known, and you put that in a form that makes the reader aware of the specific subject you're talking about. Then you arrive at a very important part, which is the gap in knowledge. This is actually one of the most important parts of the first paragraphs, because on it you will build the whole research proposal. The gap in knowledge is the piece of information that is not known. It is the missing piece of the puzzle. You should clearly state the gap in knowledge that needs to be addressed, and convey that your research will fill this gap of knowledge using the funding that you're requesting in case of an NIH grant, or using your capabilities in case of a research proposal. Then the problem. You would state why the gap in knowledge is actually a problem. Let's take an example. This is a specific aims of an ongoing study here at Larkin. So we can see that highlighted in yellow is an opening statement. Patients with schizophrenia suffer a 3-fold increased likelihood of sudden cardiac death compared to the general population. You see the opening statement is an attention getter. Then we put the important knowns. You can see that the author did a literature review, and then he indicated the parts that are important knowns to try to ground the reader. Previous studies have consistently shown that schizophrenia patients suffer from profound autonomic dysfunctions characterized by decreased heart rate variability, moreover cardiorespiratory coupling is impaired, etc. Then, highlighted in green is the gap of knowledge. However, the exact mechanism of insult on CV system by schizophrenia remains unexplored. The gap of knowledge should be this clear. You should say remains unexplored, is unknown, is yet to be elucidated. You should state that it's still a gap that you are trying to fulfill using this research. After the gap of knowledge, you put the problem. Why is this gap of knowledge a problem? Here, which renders it difficult to address directly the cardiovascular manifestation of this disease. So first paragraph is an opening statement, then the important knowns, the gap of knowledge, and then the problem. Then you arrive at the second paragraph. In this paragraph, your goal should be to introduce the solution that fills the gap of knowledge. It is critical to convince reviewers that you and your team have the solution to address the current knowledge gap. So you start with an objectives. The objectives should be very distinct. You can start with a long-term goal, which is your overarching research goal. But then you put your proposal objectives. What do you expect to accomplish? How will you fill the gap in knowledge that you have identified? and you can start it with the objective of this proposal is to, and you list them. Then the rationale. What will be possible after this research is complete? And how are you basing the research methodology on your objectives? Then comes the central hypothesis. It must be linked to the objective. So every part of the second paragraph must be linked to the prior part. It should be running smoothly. And the central hypothesis must be testable. So for example, if you're measuring schizophrenia severity, you would say I would use PANS to measure it, positive and negative syndrome scale. So it has to have a hard outcome or a measurable outcome. Let's take an example. Highlighted in yellow is the overarching or long-term goal. You can see our long-term research goal is to develop adjunct therapeutic intervention targeting autonomic dysregulation. But then comes the objectives. As you can see, the objectives are stated very distinctly. The objective of this study is 1. To gain further understanding of this and this. 2. To shed more light on the role of this and this. And then comes the rationale. The rationale, you would put previous information that support why you are doing this. You can use previous studies, or in case of a grant, you can use your preliminary data, a pilot study you have done that supports why you are trying to extend or take it one step further. Then comes the central hypothesis. You can blatantly state our central hypothesis is that RB will lead to this and this and this. The central hypothesis is what do you expect to see in this study, is what you anticipate. Let's say you're doing a study on medication X, you anticipate that medication X will help this symptom and symptom, but you're trying to find out through your research. And then you say you propose the following specific aims, which is the last part. So the second paragraph should be the overarching goal, which is the long-term goal, the objectives, which should be specific, preferably numbered, the rationale, which is based on previous studies or preliminary data, the hypothesis is what do you expect to see. Then paragraphs 3 to 5, which are the specific aims themselves. You should have 2 to 4 aims, and you should have a means by which you test your hypothesis, and they must be linked to above. You can even bold the headlines, followed by a paragraph. For each aim, first sentence tells what you want to accomplish. Second, what is the working hypothesis? And briefly describe how you will conduct it. And of course, point out why your work is innovative and novel. Specific aim 1. To monitor the effect of RB on cardiorespiratory coupling and its effect on HRV. You can see that the specific aim has an aim title, which is bold. And then comes the next part, which is the working hypothesis. Our working hypothesis is that RB will lead to this and that. So the working hypothesis is actually linked to the aim, because the working hypothesis is what you expect from this aim. And then you see that here we will monitor HRV using a biopatch. You are trying to show how will you reach. A part of methodology should be included in the specific aim. And then the outcome, in effort to identify the effect of biofeedback on SCZ HRV. Specific aim 2, you go for the aim title, the working hypothesis, the outcome. It is preferable that specific aim 1 is not dependent on specific aim 2 or the opposite. That's so that if you're doing a research study and you fail to prove specific aim 1, then specific aim 2 would be an outcome for your research too. So they shouldn't be codependent or dependent on each other. Final paragraph should include the following important details. In the final paragraph, you're basically reaching a conclusion. It's actually a very powerful part because it sort of summarizes your whole research proposal, and it includes the most important aspects of it. You include the innovation. What is innovative about your project? What is novel? What is new? You put the expected outcomes. Specifically state your expected outcomes for this project. Use plain language. What do you expect to see and what do you expect to be your outcome? Impact. State how your project or research project will help those who need it. Are you developing a new therapeutic intervention? Are you developing a new diagnostic modality? You should state how your proposal would benefit the people or specific population or the specific disease or the specific healthcare practitioners in that field. Let's take an example. At the completion of our study, we will have further understanding of cardiovascular parameters and autonomic dysregulation. This is the innovative part. You can use, at the completion of our study, we may have developed a new therapeutic intervention. We would have developed a new diagnostic modality. Anything that shows innovation. An expected outcome. We expect to understand the effect of schizophrenia on heart rate variability patterns. Pinpoint the interplay of this and that. So you're trying to show what is your expected outcome, and then the impact. This may help develop new therapeutic interventions to counteract the severe deleterious effect of this. So innovation, expected outcome, and impact, they call it in NIH the public health importance. Why would this be important and relevant to people? Why would this be important and relevant to the scientific community? So you're trying to show, well, I have a novel idea, innovation, the expected outcome, and the impact. By this, you conclude the specific aims, the first paragraph, second paragraph, specific aims, and then the conclusion. Now, general suggestions. Specific aim should be a page to a page and a half. You should have small margins. Your name, the last, first, middle, at top right of each page. It should be single-spaced, 11 or 12-point font, Arial or Georgia, bold central hypothesis, italicized objectives and working hypothesis. An aim may take more than one experiment to address, and that's it. Thank you so much.